Are you buying or selling a home? Having a realtor can make buying or selling real estate much easier. HomeGain can recommend and connect you with a top real estate agent in your area. Call 866-512-7918 or visit HomeGain.com. Did you know, according to a HomeGain nationwide survey, that having a realtor working for you improves your chances by 50% of getting your home sold? HomeGain can recommend and connect you with the top real estate agent in your area. Call 866-512-7918 or visit HomeGain.com. Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com.
You're listening to Real Estate Radio Washington, D.C. Metro with local expert Ryan Sloper. Now, here's Ryan.
Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro, to Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined by Louis Cammarosano, who's the general manager of HomeGain. Quick reminder, Real Estate Radio is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's market by giving you good free advice. If you ever have any questions, concerns, real estate, credit, financial related, reach out to us at 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. So I can gladly personally assist you guys. One of the questions that's been coming up over and over and over again from listeners and just my clients in general has been credit related. And I wanted to address this today. Louis, I'm sure that, you've obviously looked at a lot of statistics, and a lot of the reasons why home prices are the way they are is because there's not as many, buyers that are out there that are credit, they're able to buy because their credit is high enough to do so. And, 78% of all credit reports contain errors on them. And that was, I believe, the PRNNG report that was reported. But of those 78%, 50% of those people and the errors on those reports actually hinder you, the consumer, from buying a home. And I think that that's important to note because there's certain things that you can do to, make sure that you do have good credit. The one thing that I've kind of said, and one of the guys that I work with that he's highly respected is Rondy Lambeth, and he's always said, Ryan, bad credit is a choice. You don't have to accept the bad credit. And, I've worked with Ronnie for a while now, and one of the things I can say is that, it definitely is a choice. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, which basically is out there to help consumers so that their credit doesn't get ruined, it states that 100% of the information on the report has to be accurate. That's the first thing. If it's not accurate, it must be deleted. Next thing is it has to be 100% verifiable. If they can't verify the information that's being reported on there, then it must be deleted. And the third thing is timely. If it's not timely, meaning that they challenge a certain thing on your credit report, and it's not, that getting given back to them in a reasonable amount of time, which most of the time I think is between anywhere from 30 to 45 to 50 days, it must be deleted. Well, this is one of the great tips for the Your Credit Matters segment is that on your credit report, it shows account numbers. And a lot of the time on those account numbers, like most banks or a credit card, you have a 16-digit account number. Well, most banks, when they report to the credit bureaus, don't report your full account number, the full 16 digits. It might be 4 numbers, it might be 8 numbers. Well, that's grounds for that item to be deleted just because they didn't report the account number properly. So, there's over, like I said, 200 state and federal laws that allow people to challenge their credit report. And most people don't know that those exist because the credit bureaus don't want you to know that they exist. When you think about it, the credit bureaus are getting paid by who? The big banks. Everybody's out there seeing those freecreditreport.com jingles. Those crazy commercials. We spend over $1 billion pushing that information out to consumers to get everybody to, get your free credit report and for people to focus. But ultimately, their goal is to keep people's credit score as low as possible. By doing that, they get more money from the banks that are giving them money. And it's proven that there's strategic stuff that can be done. This is just one example. if you have a perfect borrower, they have a 750 credit score, which is an excellent credit score. They have, let's say, a credit limit of $5,000 on a credit card, and they owe right now only $2,000. So their proportion of what they owe to what their credit line is beneath the 50% marker, which is good. That's about 30-some% of your credit score model right there. So what the banks can do is they can go in and lower your credit limit from $5,000 to $3,000, which then automatically would reduce your credit scores. Right, so there's so many little intricate things like that are out there that they can do that can, hinder your ability to get a mortgage, to be able to buy a home. And these are just like, and I want to say that most people just think that, there's nothing that can be done. They have, child support, they have bankruptcies. These state and federal laws that are put in place, the reason why we don't know about them is because they're not pushing them out there in the form of a commercial for everybody to see them. That's why you need to make sure that you're working with a professional, that they do, they understand these laws, number one, and they know how to take advantage, of the actual laws that are put in place for consumers, how to get rid of the negative items that are on your credit report. So, if you're in a situation right now where you're just kind of like, I don't even think that I should even mess with this. There's no way I'm getting my credit score up. Well, I would challenge you to call in 877-245-2030 so we can at least take a look and see what's out there. Matter of fact, Rondi has a great operation where he only gets paid if he gets an item deleted or he achieves results for you. So there's no risk on your end. And I would say there's certain, tax liens, state and federal tax liens, he's had about a 90% success ratio, just getting those deleted off. Collections, anything that you can think of. Bankruptcies, there's laws in place that once somebody has a bankruptcy and that bankruptcy is discharged, that the bank can't come back and keep reporting charge-offs on your credit report. If they are, then that gets deleted. So there's so many, little intricacies with credit modeling that it's very important for you guys to take a handle. Remember, I'm going to repeat this. Bad credit is a choice. Don't accept that. Rondi averages turning people's credit around in 90 days. That's not a long time. So, you're always told that it's going to take years for you to be able to buy because your credit's so dinged up, and that's just not the case. It's not your fault that the credit bureaus or the banks can't report the information properly to the credit bureaus, so the credit bureaus can report it properly according to the state and federal laws. So most of the time, they're not in compliance with the laws, and when they're not in compliance with the laws, those items get deleted, not just closed, deleted off your credit report like they never existed. So this could be the difference between you having a 500 score and a 700 score in 90 days. So, that's done all day long, and I know people think that this is a joke, but it really is not. If you understand the way that these laws, the way they were interpreted, the way you can interpret them, and the way that you can challenge these items, it can mean the difference between you renting and buying a home. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. We're here to provide you guys the best solutions possible for credit scoring. I mean, this is the number one thing that determines basically whether you're going to get a house. There's an article to the KCM blog, the 4 C's of mortgage underwriting. The first one was capacity, which is the analysis of the borrower's income to their proposed debt. So, whatever your pre-tax income is compared to what your house payment's going to be, they like that to be, 28% or so or less. That's, an industry standard. The second is credit. Well, I can tell you right now, I all the clients I talk to on a weekly basis, one of the first things I do is gather all their financial information, get their social security number to be able to pull their credit. If the credit score doesn't meet the standards by the lender, what happens? You're denied for the loan. So if I'm just the person working at a bank, which I'm not, this is not me, they just pull up through an automated system and then you don't get hit in there, they send you a denial letter. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to investigate why you have that score. Because if you take the time to investigate, you might find out that you have a collection from 1992 that's a parking ticket. And in D.C., I'm sure you guys know that D.C. parking tickets are all over the place. A lot, and not just that, speeding tickets and everything else that can put on your credit report that you didn't even know you had, which is why I'm a big advocate of checking your credit at least every 6 months just to make sure that there's nothing that pops up that shouldn't be on there. But if your credit score, didn't come in above a 620 or 640, whatever type of loan you were applying for, then you're automatically just basically being denied the loan. And that shouldn't be the case. Everybody should have the right to buy a home, and bad credit is a choice, but you don't have to accept that choice. And like I said, I'm challenging you, the consumer out there, to get your credit checked at and make it better. You can go from having bad credit to excellent credit potentially in 90 days. Depending on your situation. And like I said, there's no cost unless it gets better. You're not charged anything. Credit, there's certain laws in place that don't allow credit repair people to accept money until after there's a service performed and actually successfully performed. In Rondi's case, he doesn't charge, like I said, unless that's done. Sometimes he'll allow you, if you're trying to buy a home, to be able to include that as a on the settlement statement to closing so that you're able to buy that home. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Your credit matters, and we're talking about the best solutions for you to be able to get into a home. I've mentioned the account numbers. That's just one of the little tiny things that can make an item deleted. Like I said, if the credit bureaus don't get back to you in a timely manner, meaning they're just trying to scramble to find the documentation for why that was reported, and they can't find it and they don't get back to you, that item gets deleted. But these items just aren't going to delete themselves because the state laws are there. You have to have somebody that's working on your behalf that challenges this with the proper letters and the proper procedure to get rid of them. Rondi always gives a great story about a guy that had been, trying to get his family into a house for, years. Couldn't do it. Was running up against the wall everywhere he turned, and, was trying to do a lot of this on his own. And doing this on your own can be quite cumbersome, number one. You always feel like you're not getting anywhere. And ultimately, this guy, I don't know if it was for a year or two, went on trying to repair his credit, couldn't. Such a burden for him and his family. And his kids kept asking him, why can't we get a home? Why can't we get a home? The guy ended up committing suicide over his credit. And, credit can damage a lot of people's lives, not just, your own personal lives, but your marriage. A lot of people end up getting divorced because of this, and it shouldn't be that way. There are good solutions out there, and the best advice that I can give you is to just pick up the phone, give a call in, and see where you stand. There's no situation that's too bad that we cannot fix. And whether it's a month, 30, 60, 90 days, or a year, it's better than waiting 7 or 8 years down the line to get that taken care of. 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. We're coming up on our last little break. When we come back, we will wrap up the show. You're listening to Real Estate Radio.